participation. That takes us to we're going to item number 16, and that is action as necessary or appropriate on matters discussed in executive session. We had one item. We don't have anybody signed. I'm sorry. I meant to announce we don't have anybody signed up for public participation, so we're going to item number 16. And we have one item, and I would entertain a motion on our personnel item. I have a motion. Ms. Hutchison.
I move that we approve the selected employment items as shown in Exhibit A.
And do we have a second? Mr. Cates, second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please raise your hand. And Ms. Gardner, are you still with us, Ms. Gardner?
I'm here, and I will abstain.
Okay, great. So we have all present, 6, 4, and 1 abstention. Thank you, Ms. Gardner. And that will take us to item number 17, which is our certification of delegates for the School Board Association 2018 Delegate Assembly shown in Exhibit C. And we purposely have held this till tonight. And I believe what we need to do, Ms. Stowers, you want to give us a little direction? I know you have to turn in some paperwork tomorrow, but give us a little direction and we're going to find out exactly how we need to do this.
The district is assigned 6 votes, and we need to elect so many delegates, and then we can supply the alternates. Should they not be able, we have 5 members.
Right. And that was my count. We have 5 members attending the conference. And Ms. Gardner, I talked to you about it, and whatever you've decided, Mr. Lovelace, I know you're planning to go. So there's absolutely no problem with serving as a delegate, and it's an interesting process. So Ms. Gardner, I'd like to ask you, would you like to do that?
Yes, I would like that very much.
Okay. And Mr. Lovelace, you would I would assume, like to serve as a delegate also. Yes. All right. And then the other board members here are all planning to go as a delegate. Here's our little dilemma, easy. There's 5 people going, we have 6 delegates. We need to assign 1 delegate a second vote, and that happens quite often. So is there a motion or a suggestion of how we do that? Mr. Cates.
Just for clarity, I'll make the motion that Robert Gant, Michael Cates, Ken Lovelace, Nikki Gardner, and Jan Hammond be recognized as delegates for the Saturday, December 8, 2018 School Board Association delegate meeting, and Robert Gant as chair be assigned the 6th delegate vote as well.
Which would mean that everybody has 1 vote and I would have 2.
Yeah, I'll second that.
Okay, Ms. Hammond seconds that. Ms. Gardner, I assume you heard that?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Any discussion on that motion and second? Seeing none, all those in favor, please raise your hand. And that passes.
My hand is raised.
And raised passes unanimously. So, Ms. Stowers, I know you need some paperwork signed tonight. We'll do that, and if you'll get it to the proper place. Thank you very much. Thank you. All right, that takes us to item number 18, which is first reading approval of the proposed revisions to board policy IC school year shown in Exhibit D. Do I have a motion? Mr. Cates.
I move we give first reading approval of the revised policy, board policy IC school year as presented in the packet.
Now, do we have a second? Ms. Hutchison seconds. Any discussion? Ms. Hutchison.
I have a question. Is it correct that the staff have to make up the days, but certified teachers do not? Is that correct? Oh, they do. Okay. Can you explain how that works?
Yes, ma'am. Teachers, of course, are contracted for 190 days, so we are requiring our staff to make sure that that time is recorded. Dr. Jakes and her staff have led the coordination of makeup logs. We've coordinated with principals and our teacher leaders to make sure the process is understood. So, Dr. Jakes, would you explain from that point?
When you look at the calendar, oftentimes the days that are selected as makeup days are days that teachers would have already been scheduled to work. For example, a professional development day. So it's very important to count the number of work days, as Dr. Melton said, to ensure that, that we all work our assigned contract days. And so we're being very respectful of the additional work that teachers do, and we've worked with principals to be consistent and fair to make sure that teachers can receive credit for outside activities, for time that they've put in, and we found that, that many have already begun to submit that information to have that approved. Some have attended conferences, workshops, those types of things outside of the regular work day or work time. Others are putting in evening hours for parent conferences, those types of things. So we are working with principals, with staff members, and the rule of thumb is to count the number of work days or the hours that equal those days to make sure that, that you do work those assigned contract days.
And how many are they, do they have to make up?
At this point, for each of the closures or missed days, we're noting those on our makeup log, and we actually have that just in case there are other closures or inclement weather dates. We have that running total, and so we have them simply record each day that we've missed, and they show whether they worked that day. For example, we know that we did have some services provided for students, for student nutrition, those types of things. Some of our safety personnel would have worked. And so first we have to indicate whether or not you worked during that time, and then we simply indicate that each of those days is made up.
Was it 9 days? I can't recall.
It's 5 days thus far. We had
Just
4
5.
days with Hurricane Florence and then 1 day with Hurricane Michael. We've announced thus far, we've announced 3 makeup days for students and staff, capturing some of the professional development days, so then we're having to reassign or reallocate the time for professional learning. So as Dr. Jake said, those may have attended, and I'll use Oak Point as an example, their partnership with USC for professional development partnership they have here. Sometimes they have evening events or Saturday events, so we're able to use that time in lieu of the 3 days that we've announced so far. So based on the 5 days that we've missed, we've asked the board to approve 3 at this point because we wanted to get through this process and then see what may happen with winter weather before we advance with the other makeup days and what we may do with the 2 remaining days that we need to either bring to the board to ask for waive and forgiveness or to try to schedule in someplace appropriately in the calendar. But 5 days total thus far, 4 for the first hurricane and then 1 for the second. And just for note, to make sure the community understands, the first 4 we were closed by executive order of the governor. That was not a decision made by School District 5. That was an expectation from the governor's office.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Good question. Any other questions?
Mr. Gant, did the governor make any statement about, you know, I know we can also decide as a board, but did they make a statement of so many they forgave?
I can give the update that I had most recently, Ms. Hammond. Superintendent Spearman met with superintendents about 3 weeks ago, if I'm not mistaken. I have to look at Ms. Stowers because one day leads into another. The last time we met with Superintendent Spearman, she announced to all districts to make sure that we are making up the 3 days that are required by law. Obviously, we are fortunate compared to some of the coastal districts that had more than double of what we've had to make up for. So she said to all superintendents to make sure that we are stewards of the 3 days to make sure we make those up. At that time, she was not trying to predict what may happen. Of course, that was before the election. So we've not met since the election, so I'm anxious to see if we may get an update. But we are not waiting on that. We're just going to make decisions that are right for School District 5. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Just to be clear from what Dr. Jakes helped me for clarity, we're really talking about 2 different things, instructional time and staff work time. While the governor may waive instructional days, our policy address instructional days. We have the right to address instructional days. Yes. Our contracts are still 190-day or whatever the length is, and those will have to satisfy that number of days without regard to instructional time. Is that close? You can tell me no, Dr. Jakes. That's okay.
It is. As it stands, our expectation would be, unless we're told otherwise by the board and Dr. Melton, our expectation would be that because we're compensated for 190 days, 240 days, 205 days, that we would demonstrate that we've worked those. Now, should that change, should we be told otherwise, we would certainly respond to that, but that isn't the information that we have at this point.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other questions? I'm a little lost in this, but I believe we have a motion, we had a second, we had discussion. So what we need to do now is vote on this. So all in favor, first reading approval of the school year shown as policy 1C Exhibit D, please raise your hand. And Ms.
My
Gardner?
hand is raised.
Hand raised. Ms. Gardner, so that passes unanimously. Thank you. So that takes us to item number 19, which is our first reading approval of the proposed revisions to board policy IHBA Special Education Programs and Disabled Students, and new board policy IHBAE Delegation of Rights to Make Educational Decisions shown in Exhibit E. So, can I have a motion? Mr. Gates.
I move that we approve item number 19 as just stated by the chair.
And do we have a second? Ms. Hutchison seconds. And now we'll open it to discussion. Any discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor of giving first reading approval, please raise your hand.
My hand is raised.
All right, Ms. Gardner's hand's raised. That passes unanimously. That takes us to our discussion agenda.